Howdy, 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 everybody, and welcome to the Canadian eRacing Challenge presented by Apex V2R here on Apex Racing TV. We're here at lovely Lexington, Ohio, USA for the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. I'm Austin Knight. I am joined by Peter McKay with Dennis Branch joining us in the production booth. It is a lovely 80 degrees here in OHIO. Track temperature sitting at 95 degrees, 52% humidity with a good old 2-mile-per-hour breeze heading up north to Canada. Peter, welcome to the series, and how are you doing?
Well, thank you very much for the kind welcome, Austin. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing very well. 2 o'clock in the morning here in Scotland, but I've got coffee and hopefully some great racing to power me through. And of course, you're good company as well.
I'm always the best company. I hope I go in with that southern charm, and you know, just make everyone feel all right. And these guys are certainly helping as well. So we're currently sitting in qualifying. They're going to be giving us a great show. What a great show they're doing right now. Andrew Waring currently sitting up on provisional pole, 2/10 ahead of Martin Crisp. Their top 5 is Matt Corrance, Nathan Block, and Scott Hargrove. Your top 5. Scott Hargrove, a new addition to the series, most winningest driver in the IMSA Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada. So that's a giant name joining this series with 2 rounds to go. Round 3 here at Mid-Ohio of this 4-round championship, and we're finishing off this series at lovely Mosport.
Where else could they finish than the wonderful Mosport or Canadian Tire Motor? It's new.
People still call it Mosport. They always call it Mosport, as Nathan Block takes a very, very sliding line. So let's take a look at our provisional pole sitter here at Mid-Ohio. One of a very American track, and it goes back to that original style that we had, that 2-lane style. Very hard to pass here. It's a driver's circuit, just like Watkins Glen and Mosport. These tracks are the North American grassroots track, as I like to call them. Very hard to pass, but very easy to pull away from somebody and show who is the better driver here. And these tracks are just what makes American motorsports racing so much different than anywhere else in the world. Last round, we were at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, the most unique track in this championship because it just completely took that 2-wide model and just thrown it out the window. We were 3-wide, and we had a lot of overtakes, and what a crazy race it was for round 2 of the Canadian eRacing Challenge.
It certainly was, with big action at the front with Waring and Hargrove at the Montreal hairpin, but lots of action. But what I noticed, Austin, was that the top 5 were all AMG Mercedes. I think today we might see a little bit more of a mix-up because, as you say, Mid-Ohio is such a driver's circuit where the driver can make such a big difference on this old-school layout, as you say.
Yeah, we got 24 drivers out here on track, and I would say 5 different manufacturers, from Mercedes, Audis, BMWs, a Ferrari, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So I cannot count. It's actually 4.
It's great to see the BMW still hanging in there. Of course, the BMW has long been retired from GT3 competition, but we're seeing here on screen the latest edition of, there's our BMW. Yeah, number 13, Kurt Whitmer, in that excellent looking BMW Z4 Gt3, which won the 2014 IMSA GTD Championship under the Turner Motorsport banner. But a beautiful looking car and an incredible sound from its 4.4 litre V8.
Yeah, driver of that car, Kurt Whitmer, he's more used to Hondas, but you know, he's sitting very nicely in that BMW, which is one of the more stable cars in the GT3, in the GT3s here on iRacing.
Yeah, and I think around this Mid-Ohio course that's got so many changes in elevation where you can really get caught out. So I think that stability from that BMW would be really helpful. I did a few laps in the Audi R8 during the week to prepare for the race, and found it coming over Thunder Valley. The car goes really, really light, and you can get caught out quite easily. So it'd be interesting to see if we get a bit more of a mix of manufacturers up at the front after the top 5 lockout from AMG last time out. On board with Matt Cornish, number 42, for Motorsport with Ronan Simsport. We're heading down the back straight now, heading down through turn 3, heading down towards turn 4, right all the way up to top gear along here. They run quite a short gearing on these GT3 cars in Mid-Ohio. It's quite a tight and twisty track. Down we go then into turn 4. Into turn 5, you've got to watch for the weight transfer here as you have to flick the car over. You'll see the car slightly oversteer there, keeping in second gear as we head down through the S's towards the famous Thunder Valley. You can hear the tyre scrub there on there, using all the curb on the entry, heading up through Thunder Valley, up to turn 10, and then through towards the carousel. And Austin, you've got experience of this track, haven't you?
Yeah, this is one of the tracks I've driven in real life in the USF 2000 series. Sure, I've only completed one race here and maybe a formation lap or two. But yeah, this track and we have some history. It's very difficult, very flowing, but when you get it down, it is a smooth, lovely lap and just drive here. Like, if there's ever a track I would take any car I want for just a relaxing track day, it would be here.
Okay, a relaxing track day. I've never heard of that. I always have nervous track days that I'm not going to be able to drive my car home.
No, that's when I go to Circuit of the Americas. That's when I just start pushing the car all over the place.
Well, you've got the whole of Texas there to to run off.
Yeah, here you do not have anywhere to run off as they go into China Harbor, as this is known for, with that giant. It is a giant runoff area, but it is just such a lovely track, very up and down, and it's just a big old smile on my face whenever you're driving here.
The thing I like about tracks like this in Mid-Ohio, like you say, they're so typical of North American motorsport, and why so many international drivers come to race in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. But you mentioned the Circuit of Americas. It's an interesting point. That is obviously a relatively new circuit that's built recently to modern standards. You just simply wouldn't build a Mid-Ohio from scratch right now, and that's just such a beautiful thing that we can see racing, both virtual and real, around this wonderful track.
Certainly is, and it just shows how the sport of motorsport is evolving and changing. That we are seeing less style of racetracks like these, but when you find them and you race on them, they just bring you back.
I absolutely agree. Just looking at the pace here, just as we're coming to the concluding stages of qualifying, the pace here has been a little bit slower than it was in practice. We saw Scott Hargrove only put in a handful of laps in practice, but he set a 1 minute 21.2 seconds in practice. Now that would have put him on pole by over 0.2 of a second, but he's actually back in 5th place and 3.5 tenths of a second back from the leader. But judging by the pace, the top 8 covered by just under 0.6 of a second. It's going to be a close race. What do you think?
It's impossible to predict motorsports, but at the start, it's definitely going to be close. Near the end, it's up to anyone's game. It's just going to have to matter on how much traffic are these guys going to have to worry about near the end of this race, and who's going to have the better lines throughout the start, and if these guys are going to be battling throughout most of the race, then following each other and playing it nice.
I think you make an excellent point about the traffic, because it's, of course, only 1 minute and 20-second lap, 27 cars, varying in pace from fastest to slowest. So, yeah, and of course, like you say, only a 2-lane racetrack. The traffic is going to be a big part of this race for sure.
Definitely, as qualifying has just finished up. Peter, since you're new to the series, do you want to introduce everybody to the starting grid?
Oh, I would be delighted to. I'd love to do that. I'll wait for the wait for the grid to come up on screen, and we'll talk it through.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And qualifying has just ended outright now. I tried calling it, it didn't work.
Just waiting for our cars. They'll get a quick rest and get ready to grid up for this 40-minute race.
Yeah, we're still waiting on Martin Crisp right now to just finish up his lap. I think he might have.
Yes, we see him on track here.
Yeah, he's starting to speed up right now. I think he's just kept in his car, and we're just waiting for him to finish up that lap or get it into the point so we can finish this lap. And it's a very toasty track at 97 degrees. But here we go with our starting grid for the Canadian eRacing Challenge.
Okay, on pole position is Andrew Waring in the 336. Joining him on the front row will be Matt Corrins in the number 42. On the second row will be Martin Crisp and Nathan Block. Third row will be IMSA driver Scott Hargrove and Curtis Fox. On the fourth row will be Jean-Christophe Trahan and Craig Anderson. On the next row will be Gavin Sanders in the number 27, followed by Olivier Bedard. And in 11th will be Adam Isman, and 12th, Trevor Hill. In 13th will be Justin Di Benedetto in the number 96. 14th, Bill Swires in the 23. 15th, Kurt Whitmer in that lovely BMW in the number 13 car. 16th will be Jacob Exton in the 25. 17th will be Erwin James. 18th, Travis Hill. 19th will be Sam Fellows in the number 5. 20th will be Craig Daly. 21st, Yannick Lupien. 22nd, Ross Sortino. 23rd, Paul Morin, and 24th will be Jen Gray in the number 4. And finally, your final three, 25th, Kevin Glass, 26th, Alex Fedorko, and 27th, Zachary Veneer. And you can see our cars now lining up behind the Porsche 911 safety car.
Now, the last three drivers, more of the stewards of this event. So 24 cars on
my
grid.
Apologies.
It's all good because I spent the first two events also saying that as well.
Non-starters, we would call them.
Yes, the people keeping everyone in check and throwing out the penalties. But it's a rolling start here at lovely Mid-Ohio. We aren't doing the IndyCar start or the regular starting.
So are they in Thunder Valley at the moment?
Yeah, they're sitting in Thunder Valley underneath the bridge. So it's a short run-up before the pit straight start-finish line, or more the finish line, the start line being the IndyCar start line is what I'm used to. But in iRacing, we start on the pit straight. So turn 1 is going to be very, very important here before we head into Keyhole.
Okay. They also do that in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship between turn 3 and turn 4. That's actually their start line as well. So it's a strange layout here at Mid-Ohio. Yeah,
Mid-Ohio. I wish they did the full lap, but we aren't going to do that. But it's green flag racing for the Canadian eRacing Challenge, and we're already 3 wide, 2 rows down.
It's such a difficult
and
corner.
Around goes Sanders.
We've already got a spinner.
Martin Crisp is around, as well as Exton and Bedard's off as well. Oh my goodness, chaos at the start, but it's Waring, Corns, and Block your top 3.
Waring making a great start there. So difficult coming through turn 1. Cold tires. These GT3 cars do have traction control, but you can't get around that cold tire. You've got to be so careful as they head down the back straight now, heading down towards turn 4. You can opportunity slipstream and head up the inside, perhaps down into turn 4. Austin.
You can look up to the inside, but the radius of that corner is so hard to actually make a lunge in there because it's such a late turn in that it actually benefits if you take it a little bit wider. And since it turns back immediately to the left, it's hard to actually make the overtake stick.
Okay, down they go then through the S's towards Thunder Valley. This is another point to watch out for. Lots of changes of direction and a lot of changes of elevation as they head down towards the carousel now. Really, really tricky, but the front 3 are getting away nice and cleanly. Waring, Corrins, and Block. Good stuff from the top 3.
Top three looking absolutely amazing. Here is a replay of the start. Martin Crisp already stuck in the middle of that 3 wide. And turn 1 is very narrow because they got that curb out to the inside. It just gets turned around. And
that was
also
Scott Hargrove there dealing out the punishment there to Martin Crisp.
Scott Hargrove knows how to race on here and race around this track. He's very experienced around here. As more chaos is happening, as it looks like Sawyer's is off.
Get a look at this then. Here's looking at the 13 BMW. That's the number 23 car, one of the Anderson 41 cars. Oh, it got clipped. Got clipped by Whitmer in the BMW. What a pity. I think there could be some penalties getting handed out there after the contact early on in the race.
These guys are very sportsmanlike between each other, so there might be a let pass or if it catches up to him. But yeah, penalties might be assessed here. It is, like I said at the start, it's very difficult to pass here at Mid-Ohio. So that's why it's going to be a very close following battle until you hit traffic. Then it's about navigating through that very tightly packed traffic as Waring and Corrance are starting to separate themselves from Block.
Well, we were hoping for a little bit more of a breakup to the AMG lockout, like, you know, the top 5 of the race last weekend were all AMGs. We do have one Audi there of Block, but still 4 AMGs in the top 5. Clearly the car to have for this GT3 series.
Yeah, the Mercedes AMG GT3 has been a favorite here on iRacing. Ever since it was pretty much introduced, that car is so stable, and everyone describes it as it's just being planted to the ground. And, ooh, just the Benedetto getting so close onto the back of Sanders.
What's interesting about that AMG GT is, as well, is that unlike the street car, which uses a twin turbo motor, it's still a 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8. And isn't that a wonderful thing that we still have race cars with big, naturally aspirated 8-cylinder motors?
Absolutely it is. It makes the American in me just smile, even though it's German, but I'll let that one pass because big engines just have a weight to my heart.
They certainly do, and that's the great thing about GT3 racing. You have so many different configurations of car that are all leveled out by balance of performance. So here we've got the AMG GT, which is a 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8. We've got the Audi R8, which is a V10 naturally aspirated, but with the engine mounted in the middle. And the BMW is a V8 mounted at the front as well. And I see we've got a McLaren in there as well. The Federico, is that a 650S, that McLaren?
It's a
or is it an MP412C?
It's an MP412C dash something something. It's got a ton of different dashes after there because it's the way the McLaren loves to name themselves with their cars. But it's a MP4-12C is that McLaren that Federico is running.
It's not the catchiest of name, Austin, that's for sure. I prefer something like Mustang or Corvette. That's a much nicer sounding name for a car.
We'll just say the McLaren.
That much easier. I like that. So Waring still leading out front, but only 3.5 to 4 tenths of a second between him and Corrance, and Block not too far behind as well. I think you're absolutely right, Austin, when the traffic is going to come thick and fast, and it's all going to be about who's got the guts, who wants to risk it going through the traffic. And of course, one of the great things about sports car racing is when you come up to lap traffic, how you use that lap traffic is so important. Oh, we've got an Audi off there. Who's that?
That's Block. Block is
that
off.
Block out of third place? Block spun out of third place. Let's get a look at that.
And that's 2 broadcasts in a row where we reference Timo Glock.
Yep.
And that curve.
That is a classic turn 1 Mid-Ohio accident. You want to just nip that little bit on the inside. If you hit that big sausage curb, you're going to do very, very well to hang on to that slide.
That curb is so deadly, even in real life. iRacing doesn't do justice on how massive that curb is. No matter what car you're in, if it's your road car you just took to the track one day, or if it's a very small single-seater car, that curb looks like Mount Everest.
You don't want to be going over that sausage car. Brilliant battle at the front between these two AMG Mercedes. Wearing in the AMG number 336, of course, got into it in the early laps with the Ferrari of Scott Hargrove at Montreal. That compromised his race a little bit, but looking really good here. And they're making a strong breakaway now with block, not without having to worry about block. Scott Hargrove is about 2.5 seconds further back. So let's see if the Canadian driver, former FAF Porsche driver, let's see if he can bridge that gap.
Now I see Matt Corrance looking up the inside, trying to play a little bit of mind games with Andrew Waring, but Andrew not fazed by that at all. But now as we got a little drag race here in good Ohio, let's ride on board with Mac. See where he goes. He's looking around the outside. Now he's going to go switch back and try to harbor. Going to get on the brakes. Didn't feel confident about that move going in there and up into roller coaster right now and up this crest and then down. We head into Thunder Valley.
Tell you what, Waring must have been, he was braking so deep into there. He must have been leaning on all the anti-lock braking system of that AMG GT. Brilliant, brilliant late braking, able to keep Matt Corrance behind him.
And Craig Anderson is off.
The goalie. The goalie for the Ottawa Senators, an NHL hockey player, he has had a spin. Oh dear.
The Audi's very hard to control. One of the more flicky cars here on iRacing, and that's a classic Audi oversteer. Woo, almost got taken out right there.
Austin, would you say, I find that with the Audi R8, with the mid-engine, big 5.2-liter V10, do you think it's the big heavy engine in the middle of the car that just makes it a little bit snappy, a little bit twitchy?
Well, yeah, mid-engine cars are more twitchy around corners than front engine cars, but front engine, it keeps the car a little bit more stable, but they've just done something in that Mercedes, keep it more planted, but it's definitely a big hurtful with that short wheelbase mid-engine car. It's a lot more oversteered, but when you get it locked down, it is the most deadly car out there, just like the McLaren.
Yeah, I find it's a tricky car. I'm glad it's not just me. I'm glad it's not just me that finds the Audi a little bit of a tricky car. Maybe I'll need to go and buy myself an AMG GT for my iRacing and GT3 racing.
Look at that, Gavin Sanders. Incredible. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, and I'll update as well. That gap is not coming down between Hargrove and Matt Corrance. It looks like Corrance and Waring are in their own world, but absolutely nothing to separate on pace. All three drivers in the top three positions setting 1 minute 22.2. So there's absolutely nothing to separate them on pace.
Yeah, top three definitely in another world as we are watching this battle for fifth between Tron Sanders and De Benedetto. Mercedes, Audi.
Yeah, that Mercedes is clearly the car to have. I mean, this track here at Mid-Ohio completely different to the race last weekend at Montreal on the street circuit. It's really, really twisty, technical, proper challenge for the drivers. And look at this train here. This is the battle for 13th position. Look at that. Look at the McLaren of Federico with the bright green wheels. You'll never miss that on track. Brilliant drafting here. Here's one of the Audis trying to go up the inside. That's the number 33 car.
Oh, he's going for the switchback, but there's no room to pass right there. Door absolutely closed by Daly.
Of course, Block is in there as well. So he's going to be trying to make his way back through the field after that spin a little bit early on. Fastest lap of the race for Matt Corrance, but only just by only 0.08 of a second from Waring. Great stuff at the front.
And a little update for Martin Crisp. He actually got a drive-through penalty assessed by one of the admins. I'm not sure for what, but
Do you, th-
he is serving that
do
penalty
you think
right
that could have
now.
been? Do you think that could have been for his turn one incident? He looked like the innocent party in that incident, but it might be for something else, perhaps.
It might be what we saw at Keyhole. These admins are watching the broadcast and the race on their own as, oh, snap, oversteered for Nathan Block.
I think that's one of the Mercedes. I think that's
What's this,
it's
Gavin?
I think it's Gavin
It's
Sanders.
Adam.
I think Adam Isman. He's in the Audi. That was definitely a Mercedes going off there.
Sam Fellows. It might have been Sam Fellows.
Could have been. Could have been. We'll get it. We'll get an update on that. Through they go then, through Thunder Valley, through to the S's in the carousel. So tricky. The car is just changing direction all the time as we head around the carousel. Look at this, with the Mercedes. Got a great battle going on here between Jean-Christophe Trehan and Justin De Benedetto. Audi versus Mercedes as they head towards the really tricky that horn side. And interesting, the top two of Waring and Corrins, they are pulling away from Scott Hargrove. They've opened up that gap to about 3 seconds from Corrins to Hargrove.
And that just shows the dominance that these two guys have had throughout this season so far.
Certainly have, but Hargrove's in a pretty safe third position. About 2.5 seconds from Hargrove to Fox. So Hargrove pretty safe, and you never know. Hargrove might just be biding his time. 3 seconds is certainly, we've got plenty of time in this race left to go. We've got 27 minutes remaining, so he's got plenty of time. He might just be saving his tyres. Austin, I would imagine that Mid-Ohio must be really punishing on tyres.
It definitely is, especially with all the medium speed corners here, which makes it A, so very hard to pass, and B, very hard to control your grip later on in these races. And here on the new tire model on all the GT3 cars, it is definitely going to be harder on later in this race, and the Mercedes might actually struggle in the final 10 minutes.
Tell us about the new tire model on iRacing, Austin. Do you find that you get more degradation over a race than with the previous tire model?
Oh, 100% yes, and it's also the warm-up of the tires is more important than keeping the tires in check. Sure, you do get more grip and throughout the first 10%, and then after that, it just falls off, and it's a very noticeable fall off, and it's something I love about these tires, because you actually feel the fall off when you're driving in a car over a long period of time than compared to the old tire model, when it's just you hit this number and boom. But these tires
I see, so it's a little
realistic.
bit more progressive. Yeah. Well, have we seen in these 40-minute races, I guess it must get pretty sketchy in the last few minutes when these tires are long past their best.
Well, actually, at Watkins Glen and Gilles Villeneuve, we didn't see a lot of that. We might have saw a little bit of that at the end of the race with Circuit Gilles Villeneuve because of how hot the track was. We saw a lot of tires getting spun up and a lot of people losing grip coming out of corners and trying to keep the car in control. We actually had some comments about tire wear after there. That track is punishing on the rear wheels with how much stop-start it is. This one's going to be punishing on the front wheels.
Okay, so I also noticed in pit lane there, Zachary Veneer and Jen Gray both in pit lane. Not sure if looks like they've got back moving again. Looks like Veneer's got back moving again. We'll need to see if Jen Gray's got back moving too. But both the Ferrari and the Mercedes sitting in pit lane there. We might be getting a look at why now. Looking at Jen Gray, number 4, and the Mercedes. Oh, straight in the wall. That's a big hit. Big hit. But manages to get the car out of the way. Good job.
Scary place to park, but great exit to get it out of the way. And Jen is in the pits.
Yeah, good presence of mind there.
Yeah, it looks like Jen is not going to get back into the car. If she does, that is perseverance on another level. as Waring and Lawrence putting on a great show here today at Mid-Ohio. So we passed the 15-minute mark. Let's take a look down the field at some other drivers. Here's Oliver Bedard and that stealth black Mercedes AMG. And I just love the matte black. I don't know why.
It looks fantastic. Yeah, it looks, especially on this AMG GT, black wheels, real kind of stealth bomber of a car. Look at that, getting the back end, sliding around turn one there. Beautiful from Olivier Bedard. Very nice. It looks like we've lost the BMW, the Bmw Z4, the sole Bmw Z4 of Whitmer, not in the top 20, so it dropped out. I don't know out the race completely, but certainly out the top 20 after battling around the back end of the top 10.
He's sitting in 22nd, actually. He's still going around, but he has fallen off the pace right now, and he's actually a lap down.
He's obviously had problems of some sort. That's a pity. I have to say, I've got a bit of a soft spot for the BMW Z4. And actually, I thought more drivers would choose that car because although it's not very fast in the straight line, it's really, really nimble and really, really maneuverable around these tight, twisty turns of the Mid-Ohio course.
That's all down to driver apprentice, what they're used to, and what they think will give them the best advantage. Because, you know, racing drivers, we always go for getting the most out of each car, and the Mercedes is the most easiest to learn and the most used car on iRacing. It's used in multiple series, not just IMSA. It's also used in VRS GT3, and some other endurance series also like to use the Mercedes GT3 for special events.
Well, it's like you say, if everyone who comes here to compete in the league here in the Canadian iRacing series or in any iRacing series, everyone comes here to win, and if it's the car of choice, that's what everyone will go for. Just a little update on Jen Gray. I saw her there coming out of pit lane, so good on her. She's got that AMG Mercedes repaired and back out on track. We can see her there on track.
So we are continuing to watch this battle for the lead as the traffic is starting to play a part here in Mid-Ohio. And just to show you on how crowded this track can get, let's pull up our mini-map, and you can just see that this track is full.
Well, no space at all. Incredible. Absolutely incredible how closely packed the race is. And there's another sub 122. That's the second sub 1 minute 22 lap for Waring in the Mercedes. So that's two laps in a row where he's been underneath 1 minute 22, and look at that, he's now up to 0.85 of a second ahead. Now that we're hitting traffic, is it that Waring is able to get through the traffic that little bit cleaner? And there's the BMW as well, still running, as you said, Austin.
It's all about traffic management, where you pass, how you pass, and what you do behind the traffic. If you sit in the draft down the front straight that you definitely know you cannot pass in, you're going to get that draft instead of trying to force a move down there. And it's all about where you pass and how you deal with it. I certainly haven't really had to deal with traffic in any of my racing, since all my series are more sprint series that I've ever competed in. But the most traffic I ever had to deal in was when I tried out off-road Baja racing.
Well, that's not where you want traffic.
Yeah, definitely. But then again, you're equipped with a siren, so you just blast their ears out until they get out of the way. This, you just got a headlight flash and maybe get onto the mic.
I need to get one of those for my road car to get people out of my way.
Consult your local
leaders. Sorry, go on.
You might want to consult your local driving rules before you attach one of those on there.
No, they might say I'm not allowed. So looking at the track map here, we're heading into the keyhole of turn 2 with our leader, Waring in the Mercedes. Still now got a bit of a gap there, as you can see. Got the whole of the back straight and most of turn 4 and turn 5. So it's going to be a little while before they've got to worry about any more traffic. So look at that. Corrin's now over a second behind Andrew Waring. So you know, it looks like with a bit of clear air, Andrew Waring could make a decisive move as we just go past half distance here on lap 16.
Halfway down, and a little bit of clean air for our leaders, but I can tell you, within 10 minutes, this track is going to be crazy hard for them. And look at the gap they pulled out to Scott Hargrove. He still has to deal with that lap traffic.
Well, it really seems to have affected Scott Hargrove. Really strange, because Scott Hargrove was fastest in practice and looked to do it with ease. Only did a few laps and back into the pits again. So yeah, something not quite right for Scott Hargrove out there. I mean, he's still in third position, still very impressive, but expected slightly more from the #1 driver.
Race pace, practice pace, and qualifying pace are all completely different things, and how you manage and achieve that pace as well, because in practice you don't have, it goes by just your fastest lap. He could have just done a qualifying sim there. He could have been the first one out on track, the freshest track, no traffic around him, fresh tires. It's just a walk in the park here, but that's not what makes Mid-Ohio Mid-Ohio. Mid-Ohio is cars all over the place, different paces, different speeds, and how you manage that traffic.
That's a great point. So you can still have that out and out pace, but it's all about how you can race and consistent through here. And of course, in practice, like you say, the fuel level can make such a big difference. These cars, you know, the Audi, it has a 120-liter fuel tank, huge fuel tank. So the difference between the tank being completely full and being on qualifying fill is a huge difference.
Definitely is. It also help with weight transfer as well. Mercedes with their fuel tank, the more fuel you actually lose in the Mercedes, the more unstable it gets, and the more risk of I just call it drift out and mind of its own, or just tank slappers, as they're more commonly called, is extremely more likely as you go through on the race in the Mercedes compared to any other car here on iRacing. I would say the most stable car with the most fuel would have to be the Audi.
That's an interesting comparison. Of course, they're both big. They're quite old-fashioned in that sense. They're big capacity, big cylinder count motors. You know, naturally aspirated. Of course, no turbos, no supercharger, nothing like that. But of course, the Mercedes has got a huge 6.2-liter engine. You know, V8 mounted out the front. So I see exactly what you mean there with the fuel tank. As you reduce the fuel load, it's going to make a huge difference. The fuel tank actually makes up for, can add about 10% onto the weight of the car, which is an enormous amount.
Yeah, fuel does have weight, and it packs a punch when you ain't expecting it. Just like lifting up gallons of milk, you start noticing the weight when you pick those things up out of the grocery aisle.
Yeah, when you get those 6 packs of 2-liter bottles of sparkling water, those are when you know how little time I spend in the gym. Look at that gap at the front now, up to 1.7 seconds. So Andrew Waring is charging away in the number 336 in the Evolve SimSport entry in that Mercedes, driving a beautiful race, looking very, very strong with only 50 minutes to go. He's knocked out. Look at that consistency, 5 laps in a row under 1 minute 22, and that has been the difference. However, here comes the traffic. Look at the track map. He's now coming up behind some more traffic. His life is about to get a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it's just one car in front of him, but with that gap he's pulling on to Matt Koritz, he's looking for the right place and time to arrive at the back of the 19 of Zachary Vanier.
Of course, now a good thing about on iRacing is that the driver is given an electronic blue flag warning. So when the car behind is coming up behind, the driver will get in the top left-hand side of their screen. The blue flag will illuminate, telling them that there is a faster car coming up behind, on the lead lap. However, in sports car racing, staying on the lead lap is very, very important, particularly when you have safety cars. That doesn't apply here, but the blue flag discipline of drivers could really have an impact on the result of this race.
And also, another feature on iRacing, the drivers can actually move where their blue flags can show up. I know some drivers prefer just don't mess with it. Some like to keep it on the right side, but this is a great spot to let the leader by just take up the spot of the track that you know nobody's ever going to go to unless they're in a battle, and that let Andrew pass so hard. But Matt Cords is still stuck behind Zachary Vanier in that Ferrari.
It was actually very good discipline there from Zachary Vanier, just moving across slightly, not compromising his own speed too much, but giving the room for Andrew Waring to come past. Of course, he would have got that warning all the way down the straight. Andrew Waring probably flashing the lights to let him know he was there, so he just got the timing of that perfectly. And like you say, Austin, Matt Corrins not so lucky, and that gap is now up to nearly 2.3 seconds. That could be decisive in this race with 13 minutes to go.
And actually, more that I think about it, I'm going to take back what I said about the Audi with the whole fuel stability. That Ferrari is one of the most stable cars here. There you see the light flashing heading into keyhole on Zachary Vanier. Matt Corrins getting a little bit fed up there, and he wants by. So I think Zachary is just going to lift off the gas on the straight and let him by.
Well, they could at least be generous and give him a tow down the straight. Hopefully he'll get a little bit of a tow down the straight. That is the one thing, if you're really lucky with the lap traffic, you can use a little bit of the draft as well. But he's got past there. Zachary's moved over to the inside and they can get going again. Zachary moving his Technica Mining Ferrari 488. Of course, the Ferrari, the only turbocharged car in this race, a twin turbo V8, a very special car. And in fact, the new GT3 Evo version of that car apparently costing nearly $1 million.
Like, that's why you don't really see a lot of them on the racetrack. Not a lot of teams want to fork out all that money they can use to spend on upgrades, parts, or suspension components for their GT3 cars. But hey, everyone wants to own a Ferrari.
Yeah, of course, it's the WeatherTech team in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship that are the sole runners of the Ferrari in the GT Daytona class. And of course, Cooper McNeil, the driver in that team, his family own WeatherTech, who you will see advertising during the Super Bowl and probably make the mats in your car. So they've probably got the budget to go for that shiny Ferrari.
Definitely, but the budget here on iRacing, same as every car on the service.
$12.95. Get yourself your very own Ferrari on iRacing. I want some of that. Now look at that gap on the podium now. This is really interesting how this is spread out. We see Andrew Waring now up to nearly 3 seconds of a gap, really getting through the traffic well. But Scott Hargrove languishing back 9.6 seconds from the leader, but relatively safe from 4th position. So looking like scoring a podium, but just hasn't had the pace for Matt Corrins or Andrew Waring.
With 10 minutes left in this race, still anything can happen. A lap car can start spinning out. And just as I said that, a lap car has spun out, and that's Jen Gray in turn 1. But a lap car can spin out in front of the leaders and cause a little bit of a huff and a puff, especially if it's on track, and it could unfortunately cause a massive incident. Also, lap cars battling with each other in the midfield, and we do have a tasty fight for 12th place going on between Block and Sawyers.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be long with the pace that they're going. I don't think it's going to be long by the time that Waring gets and Corrins come onto that battle for 12th place. And you just look how many cars there are involved in that. 12th back to 16th is hardly covered by any length of track at all. Block's been in the wars.
Yeah, we've had a few Block's been in a few incidents at the start of this race and on his own. That Audi proved very tough, but that wing is just showing how much he's been through. And it looks like he got rear-ended right there, or went tail end into the wall. but that is definitely hurting his downforce rear end grip. It's going to be helping him on the streets, though.
Certainly is, but no such problems for Jean-Christophe Tréhan. He's the top Audi right now. In fact, one of only 3 Audis in the top 10, 18 seconds off the leader. And you know what? There's not a mark on that Canadian Tire machine, and that's clearly the difference. Just keep the car nice and tidy, avoid contact, and run that consistent pace. Easy for us to say here in the commentary box.
Yes, it is. We don't have to be sitting down there and sweating off behind a wheel in our simulator race, no matter what pair of comfortable jammies you're in.
Oh, and also a big shout out to Heel Tread socks. I have a collection of Heel Tread Motorsport inspired socks, and I always make sure that I've got matching socks on for the car I'm going to be driving on iRacing. So yes, I am that sad.
All in immersion, that's the word.
This is a comprehensive broadcast for us, Austin. It's now fashion hour with Austin and Peter, talking about jammies. So any other advice you need, just write into us. We'll help you.
I'm the last person you want to talk about fashion. I'm wearing a headband right now and a sleeveless t-shirt and pants. And oh, Sanders is off in the battle for 7th place. Gavin Sanders has gone off and he's fallen down.
Let's get a replay of that then. This is number 27, Gavin Sanders in the Sanders Motorsport entry. AMG Mercedes just gets out onto the curb, hits the grass and spins. That's so easy to do coming into
what a save, though.
Thunder Valley. Yeah, did really well to keep that out the barrier. Not too bad, safely rejoins and down you go. So easy to do. You want to get that nice wide entry into Thunder Valley and just put just half a tire on the ground, and that was him gone. We saw last year in 2019 in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, they'd had weeks and weeks of rain at Mid-Ohio, and every piece of grass was just so wet and muddy, and that really punished any drivers who treaded off the circuit.
Yeah, the grass decided no grip at all, and it became a proper ice skating rink and a proper mud show and mud fest as well.
For those that follow them on social media, the Bamtor guys, Earl Bamber and Lawrence Vantor, of course, the 2019 IMSA champions in the 912 Porsche. Of course, there's a brilliant video of them getting their hire car stuck in the car park here at Mid-Ohio in the mud. And Lawrence Vantor was deployed to the wheel, and Earl Bamber was to push. And of course, Earl Bamber got an absolute mud shower as well. So if you're kind of come and watch at Mid-Ohio some racing, you should be aware that you've got to watch out for the mud.
Also got to watch out for that at Circuit of the Americas, especially if you're sitting on the hills. You might get a little free entertainment mudslide if you aren't careful. And this is very tricky right here. This is very tricky for Tran and DiBenedetto in this fight for 5th, because you got 2 cars in front of you, both of them equally different laps down, and you got to know when they're going to let you go and in what order.
Of course, doesn't look like they're going to get past them before the real twisty part of the section. So this is kind of one-way street there. But look at DiBenedetto. What a great opportunist move. But Tréhan defends. This is going to be contact between Tréhan and DiBenedetto. But Tréhan's managed to tough it out. The lap car there, Tréhan was really clever there. Was able to defend and put DiBenedetto behind the lap car. Very clever use of the traffic there.
Yeah, the lap car inciting that incident, forcing it to go 3 wide through the apex of that corner, and DiBenedetto had nowhere to go but into the side of the Tran, and Tran, I bet, would be also surprised by that too. But somebody who is wanting this to happen, he's been sneaking up like a stealth bomber. It's probably because his car is painted like a stealth bomber. That is Badar right on the tail for this, and we're about to have a 3-way fight for 5th place.
cue the Jaws music. Here comes Badar, and look at the the scary shark fin face of that 7th place Mercedes. The number 7. Is it number 11 or number 77?
It's 11.
It's 11. My apologies. Yeah. So here comes Olivier Badar. Is he close enough for the draft? Not quite. He's just about 1.5 seconds behind De Benedetto, but any more.
They do have a lap car in front of them.
And De Benedetto right there.
These guys do have another lap car in front of him, but he has gotten close enough to trigger our battle box to make it a 3-way fight for 5th place with less than 3 minutes remaining here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
This is brilliant stuff. This is what GT3 racing is all about. These two cars on screen are incredibly different in philosophy, but made by two of Germany's powerhouse manufacturers, and of course racing wheel to wheel. It's just fantastic stuff. You've got to love GT3 racing. Through they go then towards turn 1. That's true. Less said about Volkswagen, the better at this stage. So
I had to do it.
On to the back straight then. So, can De Benedetto get in the draft of Trahan? So through they go then, down the back straight, heading down towards turn 4. Going to make a move, got to make it soon. There's only 2 minutes left in this race, so it's now or never for Justin De Benedetto. Here they go then, through into the switch back of turn 4 and turn 5. No line through there, but it looks like heading through towards the S's. It's going to have to rely on a mistake from Trahan if he wants to get past on this lap.
Yeah, he's going to be relying on mistakes, traffic, anything to do in the rest of this lap and then the next lap, because it's white flag here for Andrew Waring at Mid-Ohio.
So Andrew Waring has crucially got a completely open track in front of him. You can see on our track map there on the top right hand side of your screen, you'll see that number 1, he's just coming out of the keyhole there, and he has just had the run of the traffic just right. He's now got a nice clear open lap for his final lap of this race, and hopefully cruise home to a very impressive victory.
Now, as I said that, we might have another lap depending on how fast Andrew Waring completes this lap.
Well,
it takes 1 minute 22. It's been 1:22. If he puts in a 1:21 on his last lap, we will have another lap.
Do you know, I think he's going to do it just to spite you, Austin, just to make you look bad. I think he's going to do that.
You know, I've commentators cursed so many people today. I will not be surprised if I've commentated cursed myself with this.
Tell you what, he must be listening. He looks like he's pushing that AMG Mercedes really hard.
Too much. It's actually a lock up going into carousel. But he has another chance to improve himself. And now it's white flag.
The good news is you'll also see from as he comes around turn 1, he still has that cushion in front of him as well. And he has the 14th place car of Crisp in between him and Matt Corrins. So Matt Corrins might, with plenty of room, 10 seconds back to Scott Hargrove, he might just think, I'll just back off and accept second place. But maybe that's not how racers think.
Well, this is because I'm bad at math. But it does give us another great lap of this 3-way fight for 5th place on now officially the last lap. No way I'm wrong about this one.
Look at that, you're right. Badar is right there, right behind Justin De Benedetto. So here we go then. Let's see if anybody wants to have a little bit of a move. Trahan, De Benedetto and Badar as they head down towards turn 4, and Badar looks to the inside but decides not to. Has a big look. Then it's Badar looking really strong at the end of this race. Where do you think he's going to make a move, Austin?
It's going to be a now or never moment. We're going to switch back to our leader though, taking the win from start to finish, Andrew Waring takes the win, followed by Matt Corns in second place. And now back to this three-way fight, making a four-way fight for fourth place as they've caught up to Fox now, going into the last real chance they got. Looking down to the inside, Tron looking down into that lap car, but nowhere to go. And oh no, around goes Tran!
In the wall!
And DeBenedetto finished fourth as Fox has ran out of fuel. At the end of the race,
finish.
Curtis Fox has ran out of fuel. We see Tron. He was looking down the inside of the Braun GT3. He had to take evasive action and just got sent into the wall. I don't know if that was contact by the car behind him. And then you see Curtis Fox up there run out of fuel. And DeBenedetto went from 6th place all the way up into 4th place in one corner. I have never seen anything like that.
That was an incredible, of course, that's so tight around that final corner coming out of the carousel. And of course, with the car running out of fuel and the drivers won't have expected that. It'd be great to have another look at that to see if
I really want to see another look
into
that.
the wall, maybe. I think he maybe did. It'd be great to see it on board from Di Benedetto's perspective to see if Trahan was put in the wall. Let's see. So we're on board with Trahan in the Audi. So we're about to get
now
Mercedes.
There was a bump.
I think he got a touch from somewhere. I don't think he did that on his own. Drove such a clean race all race long. So it'd be really interesting to see. Now here we go then. So Di Benedetto in the Mercedes, the white car at the back there, and there's Trahan in the red, black, and white Audi. Let's see what happens. Yep, gives him a real strong tap. That is really hard luck for Trahan. Di Benedetto might get a post-race penalty for that, do you think?
Oh, definitely. There's going to be a lot of talk about there. It was do or die, and Di Benedetto wasn't even waiting. He drove straight through there. So before any post-race penalties get assigned, let's go through your unofficial race results with Peter.
So your winner then, Andrew Waring, the number 336 in the Evolve Sim Sport Mercedes, an absolutely flawless drive, dealing with the traffic of Mid-Ohio perfectly. Also a great drive from Matt Corrins, the number 42 in the Core Sport with Ronin Sim Sport entry. Rounding out the podium is Scott Hargrove in the number 1 Catalyst Driver Development Mercedes. Then the provisional result, Justin Di Benedetto pinching 4th in that controversial last corner incident. We'll see how that plays out. In 5th was Olivier Bedard, great recovery drive from him working his way up the field. Curtis Fox in 6th. Jean-Christophe Trahan, despite being put in the wall in the last corner, manages to get the car over the line in 7th. In 8th is Gavin Sanders, 9th Craig Anderson, and 10th Adam Isman. In 11th is Craig Daly, the number 181. In 12th, Nathan Block in the 33 car. 13th, Bill Swires in the 23. 14th, Martin Crispin in the 154 after that incident early on in the race. 15th, Travis Hill in the 24. 16th, Erwin James. 17th, Zachary Veneer in the Ferrari. And 18th, Jacob Exton. 19th is Kurt Whitmer in the Soul BMW. 20th, Ross Sortino. 21st, Jen Gray in the Mercedes. 22nd, Yannick Leupen. 23rd, Alex Federico. 24th, Paul Morin. 25th, Trevor Hill. 26th, Sam Fellows. And 27th, Kevin Glass.
What a great race we witnessed here at Mid-Ohio. We're going to hop over to our interview room in just a short moment as we have our winner, Andrew Waring, waiting for us. And we're here in the interview room with rear race winner Andrew Waring. How you doing, man?
Good after that. It's a good clean race, which is what I've been looking for all season.
It definitely was a very clean race. Clean track in front of you. A few lap cars got in your way, but once that traffic hit, you pretty much escaped the grasp of Mac right behind you. What was your strategy throughout this race? Just lead and just not look back?
Yeah, pretty much. The temperature of the track was really high, so I knew tire management was going to be huge. And my crew chief slash spotter, Spencer, was just telling me that Max seemed to be shredding the tires the first couple laps. So I knew at some point I was going to start pulling away, and I think around like lap 10, it just started to click off, and I got into a good rhythm and was able to stretch the lead out, and then pretty much just managed the gap for the rest of the race. Didn't want to use up my stuff, but at the same time, didn't want him to catch me.
Well, it was absolutely fabulous performance, and you made that Mercedes look absolutely fantastic up there. Before we let you go, anyone you want to thank?
Just you guys again. Another great broadcast, I'm sure. Apex VTR for putting on the series. Evolve Sim Sport. They gave me a fantastic setup this week to use, and my spotter Spencer, he did a great job calling out the lap cars and gaps. So all of that helps.
All right, awesome. Thank you for taking your time to join us and giving us a great show out there. Peter, you're standing by with Mackenzie Courts.
Mackenzie, second place, it's a brilliant drive. How did you find it out there?
Uh, Track was pretty hot, but it was a good race all in all. Good points. Just didn't quite have the pace for Andrew, but congrats to him. So
You got some great pace early on in the race, but once the lap traffic came up, it's always such a problem at Mid Ohio. How did you handle that challenge of getting through the lap traffic?
I didn't actually find lap traffic to be much of an issue this time. They're just a little more heads up than they were at the other two races. And as you said, it's hard to pass here, so they were pretty courteous for the most part. I don't think it was anything to do with lap traffic.
Oh, that's good to know. There's good discipline out there, and of course, we head to Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, for the final round. Is that a track that you enjoy?
Hell yeah. That's a favorite track. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Fantastic. And before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Mark Andre and Apex V2R again, putting on the series. Everybody for coming out, those watching, um, yeah, everybody that's put on the broadcast, and yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
And now we're standing by with our third place finisher and our final man up on the podium, Mr. Scott Hargrove. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, we're doing just fantastic after a wonderful performance. How was that race for you?
You know what? The start was pretty tight. Unfortunately, got into it there with Martin. I think that's just a typical iRacing. Couldn't really judge the gap, and then the gap it kind of closed up on us, and the lightest tap sent him off. So felt bad about that. But then after that, it was just smooth sailing. Pretty uneventful for me in third there, just kind of in my own gap, and just clicked off laps to the end. So had a blast. It was good to actually get on the podium or have a good result after the first two rounds being a bit tricky for me. So yeah, pretty happy.
Any special feelings for Mid Ohio, or is it just one of those tracks that you just enjoy driving around, or anything else?
Yeah, you can really challenge Mid Ohio. It's a real driver's track, even in real life compared to iRacing. It replicates it pretty well. So yeah, I always just enjoy driving here, and done a lot of practice races here at some of the other categories, and it's always a fun place to go. So it's tricky, it's low grip. You really have to watch it, and if you're offline even a little bit in these long races, or where there's the marbles on the outside and whatnot, it can really catch you out. So you have to be on your toes, and makes for a pretty enjoyable race.
Well, you certainly gave us a show on the opening laps, and as you said, you pretty much sat around, but glad to have you up on the podium for at least one race as we head into the final round at Mosport. But before we let you go, anyone you want to thank?
Obviously, sporting the Catalyst driver development colors. You know, we're kind of launching a new karting team, and so kind of trying to represent them. And we're expanding into the northwest of Canada. So, or well, I guess Pacific Northwest area of U.S. and Canada. And so we're you know, just pleasure to be on board with these guys, and looking forward to hopefully getting back on the podium at the next race.
All right, thank you, Scott, for joining us and giving us a great show here today. And we do have one final interview with somebody who was in a great battle till the end, until the very end, and now he actually has a microphone. So
Hey.
please welcome Jean-Christopher Tride, who can give us a little insight of what happened on that last lap.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Justin was right on my tail for about the whole race, and then I think Curtis Fox ran out of fuel just at the end, and me and Jacob Exton, who was right in front of me, who was a lapped car, we all kind of backed up, had nowhere to go because it's a single kind of line corner at the last corner, and then I guess Justin behind me didn't get the memo, and he didn't kind of brake in time and took me out, but it's all right.
Well, it's still a top 10 finish. You're finishing in 7th after a great race, great traffic management today, and you're still the top finishing Audi. How does that car compare and handle differently to the Mercedes, if you have any pointers on there?
I think particularly at Mid-Ohio, there's a lot of kind of very slow and very tight corners. The Audi is kind of constant on that with the Mercedes, but I guess the last sector I always pulled a tenth or two on Justin, and then the first sector, the first two corners, Justin always had like a tenth or two on me, so we kind of leveled out for the whole race and kept that like half a second to 7/10 gap for whole race.
Well, next round it is Mid-Ohio. No, this is Mid-Ohio. Next round
Mosport.
is Mosport. They both start with M and they have a O after it.
Yeah.
They both have similar sounding names. It's late for me. Anyway, next round is Mosport. Are you looking forward to that track?
Yeah, of course. Mosport is a great track. A lot of very fast corners. The Audi is maybe going to, I guess, struggle a little bit, but I'm sure I'll try to fine tune my setup just to kind of try to have a setup that's more stable, because the Audi is renowned for, particularly in iRacing, for the very, very snappy oversteer when you release the brakes, and it gets pretty hairy, particularly when you have kind of cold tires or old tires, as I had in the end. But yeah, it's a great track, and it's a track I've never been to before, but I really look forward to it.
All right, thank you. And before we let you go, anyone you want to thank?
Justin, for giving me a nice kick in the bottom area at the last corner. But except from that, I guess I don't know. I guess Marc-André for making this whole thing happen. It's a lot of fun and great time battling other Canadian racing drivers.
All right, thank you, JC. And speaking of Justin, Peter, I believe you're standing by with him?
Sorry,
And just
Justin,
waiting
Peter?
for him to come into the room. Oh, we're gonna have both then.
Oh, we can finally talk, Justin.
We've got to keep you guys apart. Justin, in the you're involved in a little tangle there in the last couple of corners. What was your account of that?
Well, we got bunched up pretty bad by the back markers and Curtis. I think he was super tight on fuel at the end over there. But I basically made the move, and then I didn't realize where he had went. But when I went back into the replay, JC actually jumped onto the brakes, and then contact happened. So, I mean, I think it was more circumstantial. of really what was happening. I'd call it more of a racing incident more than anything. But
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
but I mean, it is what it is. It's a product of racing. But I mean, it was a good race with him all throughout the race. But yeah, no complaints about it. But
Absolutely. Of course, the Mid Ohio course, the last couple of corners is so tight around there as well. Also, around most of the course, how did you find dealing with the lap traffic on this congested little layout?
uh, if you catch lap traffic through T1 through T4, you can be okay. But the minute you get into those tight, twisty sections of the track, Sector 2, Sector 3, it just becomes a freight train at that point. But yeah, no, it makes it really, really difficult to get past cars through here.
Can imagine. And of course, the final round next week is at Mosport, at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Is that a track that you enjoy driving around?
Yeah, it's probably one of the last true real race courses, because if you compare it back to when Formula One raced there back in the '60s, not much has changed since then. So it's a really, really fun track, super fast. Passing is going to be pretty tight because corners are so quick over there. But I think it should make for a good series finale.
Oh, I think so, and hopefully get a chance of a little bit of a draft there on the back straight as well. But yeah, like you say, a really old-fashioned course. Before we let you go, Justin, do you have any shout-outs that you'd like to give to anyone before we close?
For sure. I'd like to give a shout out to D Benedetto Racing, Drone Delivery Canada, SPI Performance, Aries Technologies, and Kevin Glover Racing. And also Vic Simone's watching. Hi, Vic.
Excellent. Thanks very much for coming in, Justin. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
And that is it for our broadcast here at Mid Ohio Sports Car Course for the Canadian E-Series Challenge here on Apex Racing TV, presented by Apex V2R. Peter, it was lovely having you in the box for round 3 of this 4-round championship. Production was brought to you by Dennis Branch, and he was doing a wonderful job today. Thank you everybody who joined us in chat and kept us company on Facebook and YouTube. My name's Austin Knight, and I hope y'all have a good night.